What's going on YouTube? My name is Jay Lee and I like a lot of stuff. Today I'm continuing my weekly review of HBO's The Last of Us with episode 3 titled Long Time after the featured Linda Ronstadt song of the same name. I've been enjoying the show so damn much and I really can't get over the fact that it is a reality. Breaking the video game curse and all that aside, the show is continuing to garner positive buzz and create talking points amongst fans and newcomers alike. What a time to be alive. For the last 2 episodes, we've been following the game fairly closely, so being able to kind of predict the logical endpoints each episode is something I've been lamenting since the start. This week we were gifted a pretty incredible episode that kept me on my toes, just not knowing where it was going. Even when I thought, okay, this is probably where they bridge the narrative gap between Bill in the show and Bill in the game. Nope, I did not expect to see things go down the way they did this episode, and I absolutely adored it. And before I go on, I will be getting into some pretty major plot details from the show and a little bit into the game as well. So I really hope you've seen this episode because it is absolutely worthy of your time and attention. This episode begins with Joel and Ellie traversing the woods outside of Boston. There's a quiet moment at the beginning that shows Joel stacking some rocks by a river to mourn Tess's death. As the two interact and kick off the episode, you really start to see the formation of a different kind of relationship. There's still animosity as Joel's obviously keeping her at arm's length, but something I really enjoyed was Ellie's unwillingness to get bullied by him. She's really in your face as we've seen in the last 2 episodes, but it really breaks convention when she opens her mouth not to apologize for Tess or all the things she might be feeling guilt over, but to stand up for herself. It's a moment that even catches Joel off guard, and it's just perfect Ellie. Yeah, there's some pretty awesome dialogue after this about the fall of humanity and whatnot, but the real meat of this episode is the surprising focus on Bill and Frank for the vast majority of its runtime. What came as an even bigger shock was that it ended up being an incredibly beautiful love story with an outcome so heartbreaking, but poetic, that it immediately places this version of events heads and shoulders above the video game. Not only did they flesh out the Bill and Frank backstory, but they crafted a happy ending that shouldn't necessarily exist in an apocalyptic world filled with shitty people doing shitty things to survive. Yes, the 2 characters die, but it's not done in a bleak, hopeless, end-of-day scenario with the world crashing down on them. It's done to the sound of melodic violins dancing over this relationship, so sweet and unexpected that I'm still in shock that they pulled it off. This hour 15-minute episode somehow gave us a tale of love that's so complete, with them meeting, falling in love, going through the trials, and then getting a dazzling send-off into the sunset. Before that, we also get a flashback to when Frank establishes a work partnership with Tess, which was really great as we got to see Anna Torv again. These are all relationships that we didn't get to see in the game, and although the show diverges greatly with this telling, it creates a believable history amongst the characters. What's more, because of how the Bill-Frank relationship falls apart in the game, the episode repeatedly surprised me as I was watching it thinking I knew what to expect. I feel like Druckmann and Mazin were able to play with expectations a bit, even giving us a few psych-out moments like the Raiders scene. When Joel and Ellie's journey finally connects with Bill and Frank's story, it's done with an emotional letter that's a bit reminiscent of the game when Bill writes,
"Anyway, I never liked you."
Bill leaves Joel with some last words that will surely resonate moving forward, and it is but one example of how strong the writing is this episode. Frank and Bill's exchanges get progressively better as their relationship progresses, and as an audience we are treated to some really heartfelt gems like,
"I was never afraid before you showed up."
And,
"Then love me the way I want you to."
The dialogue is delicate and honest, with so many flashes of realism that when you're watching them grow old together, I found it to be so much more touching and affecting than a single, pretty much standalone episode should have been. I adored the 2 of them, which I promise goes beyond a cute old people or adorable gay couple thing. I was genuinely moved. What they had together was love exemplified in all its messy, chaotic, and sincere iterations. And because we meet and part with them in a single episode, I feel like this is gonna go down as an all-time great piece of television and a real feather in the cap of HBO's The Last of Us. I'm giving episode 3 a 9.5 out of 10. As Joel and Ellie drive off at the end of the episode, we're greeted with an open window shot, so beautifully reminiscent of the start game screen you see when you fire up the video game. The episode was beautiful already, and this shot was the perfect cherry on top. Anyways, that ends my thoughts for this week's episode. I really hope you come back soon to catch my thoughts on all the stuff I haven't talked about yet.